And we're live. Hi, I'm Heather.
And I'm Amy.
And we are the Experienced Empaths. And this is Ever So Clever Conversations with Amy and Heather.
And today's episode is number 14, and it's about the empath and guilt. Heather and I are carrying on these conversations. We were having these conversations behind the scenes for, I don't know, quite a while. And I said, hey, why don't we take these conversations and bring them live? And we are experienced, but we are not experts. This is really true. So we're just here to help really empathic, highly sensitive, and intuitive people through this turbulent time so that they can thrive.
That's right. And today with guilt, I was just thinking of that word guilt, and even the word feels really heavy to me.
Well, think about it. Guilt, like gilding something, or, to put some, I mean, that's kind of similar, like you're coating it or making it forever, and I think guilt feels the same way. Like you are sinking it in and keeping it, in that situation for a long time.
Right. So guilt, that's a good point. So guilt can feel, I was thinking that too, guilt can feel very lonely. Mm-hmm. Like it's your feeling. And when I was, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's useless. I mean, it doesn't help us or motivate us. It's not like anger that drives us into a different position or state or, yeah.
And I think as empaths, because we want to be helpful and we want to serve other people, or, we want to be there and be kind and serve and all of that, there can be this place when we anger, or we seem like we don't do the right thing, that we feel guilty.
Right. Well, and that can come, I'm writing a class for tonight. Hey, that right. I finished up writing and printed before. I'm not at my house right now. But when I looked at that, part of what I shared is that I don't know. Now I lost my train of thought. Okay, sorry.
Well, that's okay.
My head is like 5 places, I think. It'll come to me, Heather. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Well, just, we are created to, help and serve and be open to help, guiding others. So I think that we naturally have that sense of guilt when we feel like, did we trigger that in somebody, or were we not able to help them? Or like for me, if I've seen an animal get injured and I can't stop to help them, that animal, I have this sense of guilt and I ruminate and I sit in it for a long time. Or if I say something and the person took it a different way than I meant for it to be, there's that guilt. So you just carry that with you.
Absolutely. And I think guilt is kind of it's like our own secret judgment of our action, even though nobody said to us. I mean, it can be that somebody says something to us, but I think some of the things you're mentioning are self-driven.
Right.
Like, to me, spiritually, if you see a turtle on the road or something on the road and you didn't pick it up, there are a lot of people on earth to do that. And the other thing is maybe it wasn't supposed to be picked up. Like maybe that's you taking it out of where it is because you think it's not safe, actually wasn't its journey. So, I mean, how do we know?
Right.
I think in the natural situation of it, and I think this is where I was going to go with the parenting, is we have to set up to ask the question. And that can release us from guilt to say, hey, how did you feel about that? Like, I know I was just talking to one of my friends about a situation with another friend, just mildly to give as an example, but where one friend we push and joke hard with each other. And I felt like maybe I had pushed too hard and I hadn't heard from the friend for a few days, but the friend's busy. So I thought, well, maybe they're just busy, but then I thought about it. I'm like, instead of going into guilt, my natural confidence and position, because of my love for this person, went into, maybe I should ask them, was that okay? Or did I push it too far? Because I care about knowing that, so that I'm not harming or hurting you, like that was never my intention. So, I mean, I think that if we don't ask the question, we could sit with that and think, oh, maybe they're upset with me. And then all this stuff starts to arrange in that relationship where they may feel discomfort because energetically that's what we're putting out. So that's tricky. And I do think the empath, you said something too, Heather, where there's a correlation specific to the empath about being guilty of we are so hyper aware and we're feeling what other people feel. And, this is what I was writing about the class is the problem with the empath is they can sometimes feel things other people can't. And so that person maybe didn't deal with their sadness and they're so heavy with it that the empath is experiencing this. And then the empath might feel sad for that person and actually could start to feel guilty. Like I didn't help them, or I shouldn't feel this good because they don't. I mean, there becomes this really tricky, multi-layered thing, I think, for the empathic person who feels so deeply.
Right. Well, and it's a good point that, not all problems are for us to carry, or aren't for all of us, right? They're not all of our problems, and we can't fix or serve everyone. And I think that's hard for empaths to come to that point of understanding, but that is true.
Well, so there's a difference between empowerment and being something else, where it's like, if you're empowered, you say, that's not mine. Am I supposed to pick up that turtle? Nope, that's not my turtle to pick up,
Right.
But then there's this other part of us that's like, well, because we're so sensitive, maybe, like we talked about this, Heather, in another episode, where that guy in the bars, when we said we're here for this conference of highly sensitive people, he felt like he could take advantage of us. And then I put him in his place. But it's like, I think that it's seen as a weakness. And so then we take it as, well, I'm pinned as having a weakness. And that's actually very far from the truth. And so that position is that, we have to see ourselves as not believing that label.
Mm-hmm.
That, well, you're sensitive, so you should have picked that up because other people won't notice it. It's like, really? Is that really what you believe? Because that's not coming from power. Somebody will pick it up if I can't, or I don't want to, or I'm not able.
Right.
And to let it go. That could, I could tell a big story here. Maybe I'll do it in the deeper episode. It's about a duck. Have I told that story?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's about a sitting duck. Okay, awesome. Okay. Note this, I don't forget.
Yeah.
I don't like to make empty promises.
Right. Well, I was just looking at my notes too. Well, and I wrote, like, when we have guilt, it's like we did something bad.
Right.
And then I wrote, because I talked about shame. I was writing about shame too, because I think if we don't deal with the guilt, over time, it's going to turn to shame.
That's right.
And then shame is, I am bad. Like, that's who I am, right? So we want to deal with the guilt and get over that as soon as we can, really, and not let it hold on and be in our bodies for too long. Absolutely. And that's where I have a hard time. It takes me a little bit longer, but I think finding ways to process guilt or to deal with it. I don't know. Do you have ways that you do?
Well, share. But I found one of my friends just studied the emotion code. Oh. And so she's been doing a lot of that work with me. And I have found a renewed confidence in that exact issue with guilt and shame. Yeah. I feel like I know what to say to the friend when I'm not sure if something went wrong, instead of ruminate about it. Like, I know how to solve it. And I know kind of like, well, then I'll tune in when it's time to actually activate that. But if I feel okay with it now, I'm just going to roll with that. So I feel that it could be also that we have a lot of stuck emotions because we took other people's, or we just, I don't know. I think in this lifetime, we're working off a lot of lineage. So I can't really say, but I do think if you're looking for a resolution, I think that emotion code, or if you can tune in with your body and get a list of emotions, which you could probably pull off of a website or online or anywhere, and then go through them. You could even ask if they're lined up in columns. Is it in column A? Is it in column B? Is it in column, muscle tests? Like my friend does sway testing, where you stand up and kind of yes or no, back or forth. You can look up sway testing. I'm not going to explain it here totally, but then find out, what is the emotion, and then ask your body, where is it? You can go to that depth, and then, it's time to release it, to slowly pull that off of you. And I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with how much it's affecting me. And I maybe have tried it prior to this in my life. It just didn't seem to do the same thing it's doing now. So maybe I'm just ready.
Yeah.
If that's helpful.
Yeah, that was helpful. I've never heard of the emotion code. So I will type that in there again for people. But I know for me, even just talking, we briefly talked before this, just talking something through with somebody and maybe having an outsider say, well, that doesn't sound like something you did, or you purposely didn't do that, or this is just a situation, really, that can really be helpful to have another perspective too, for me. and journaling out my emotions, because maybe it's something that happened previous or a childhood experience, and then it's just bringing that up, whatever that situation is currently. And then, oh, Diane posted something. Can you see that, Amy, or should I read it?
Can't.
Okay.
I don't know why. Let me see.
Okay. So Diane said, from personal experience, I find the narcissist types are very paranoid of empaths. I'm an INFP, and I'm currently on the path of spiritual change that I'm so grateful for. This is really interesting. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah.
I figured out how to see the comments.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is because they are not willing to see inside of themselves, and we are too willing almost, that we're willing to, we're more the codependent, I think, sometimes as an empath, because we have that label of you're too sensitive. So I'm sorry. Oh, we want to keep the peace. And that's not necessarily healthy for us or for other people too.
That is true.
Yeah.
And the narcissist doesn't feel guilt. So we're on the opposite end of them, where we are feeling that and we want to please. And so I think coming to that understanding that we don't need to feel guilty for a lot of things that we probably do feel guilty for.
It's funny though, Heather, when I think about it in my life, I feel guilty for weird things. Like I'm taking a class for women about financial planning and so on. That's to teach women so that they don't tune out when you're sitting there with your husband at the financial planner. Like you actually know how to invest yourself, no pun intended, into the conversation. Because I think over the years, I've become kind of like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I used to understand all of this, which is terrible to admit. But I think I feel really guilty taking that class. And yet I just bought myself a really nice purse. Like it wasn't that expensive, but it's really strange, like why, and that's all programmed childhood stuff for sure.
That's what I was going to say. It's something probably, from your, childhood. Well, that's and a lot of that is, right?
Yeah. And that's partially why I'm taking the financial class, is I feel like my relationship with money, I'm going to back up a little bit, has changed a lot in the past few years. And I'm like, it's too strange now. It's not, I got to get back where it's powerful again.
See, and I have a lot of guilt. My guilt comes a lot around my children. They're older, but a lot of it is if I say no, or I walk away, or I'm worried about their feelings. Like they're so, like I can feel what they're feeling so deeply that it's hard for me to do certain things that I know, like, oh, if I say no, that's going to hurt them. And then I'm going to feel guilty. That's where my guilt comes. But I know I have to do that. And I think I talked about that with you, Amy, where my son was not doing his homework and I had to and he was being fidgety and he wasn't listening to me, and he's 14 and homeschooling some of the days and school at some days. So it's all crazy, but I just had to walk away. And I said, I'm going to go upstairs. And if you are going to need help and you're ready, come get me. And I walked away and I had this little sense of guilt, like, oh, I hurt his feelings. And, but I had to talk myself through it. Like, nope, you're okay. You're a good mom. I had my own little pep talk with myself. Yep. But I think that's where my guilt is. Oh, cute. Her little 2-year-old.
I saw that too. I didn't want to interrupt you. It's funny.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot where my guilt is. And it's probably back to how I was raised, and I didn't get all the attention as a child, and my mom was a narcissist and all of that. So I don't want to hurt my children's feelings because I had my feelings or emotions not recognized. So I think for us as empaths, just trying to recognize, where is this stemming from? Why am I feeling this guilt? However you can process that, if it's being in meditation mindful, if it's speaking it through with a friend or somebody that you can share comfortably enough, journaling. I think it's just too important to realize we cannot solve and fix everybody. That's really not why we're here. What did you say?
We're not supposed to.
We're not supposed to.
That's a statement. Well, and Heather, I like that you brought up, Elaine Aron talks about this. So she's kind of in charge of the highly sensitive people on earth. But the Danish in a parenting strategy, they talk about having no judgment for other people. So they talk about thinking about the big picture. You know, maybe Anna isn't feeling happy today, and that's why she's not talking to you. Or maybe she got mad at you because something's happening for Anna. Like, they actually try and give the child the big picture. And I like, to a degree, how they do that. There's a part of it that's kind of teases the child, which I don't really like at all. but I think that concept is very true. And Elaine Aron says that, look at the big picture.
That's right.
And the long-term, you know, effect. Like, if you're really angry with a friend, do you want to yell at them, or do you want to think about what you want to say, because you are angry and you need to convey that? But then the long-term effect, you know, on how you do it is where it's going to carry the journey. So how do you say, like, hey, that didn't work for me and here's why, you know, versus get really upset or so on. It follows true probably in everything in our life to some degree. What
Right.
you eat, you're going to become what you know.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah. So even with the kids, it's like seeing the big picture. You know, my son not doing homework and me stepping away, and he didn't even really care, really, because he came up later and was like, Mom, I'm done with my homework. So there was no really reason for me to feel that guilt.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I think I love the comment, Diane. I appreciate you joining in and sharing some comments with us. So anyone else too, we love comments, suggestions. I will post in here. Amy mentioned emotion code. Is that what was it called?
Yep.
I'm just going to put that in there. Anything else you want to add, Amy?
No, I think the last piece we'll save for the deeper episode that we have. Heather and I are both writers, and we want to share more of the work that we do. So we have a Patreon account where people can become subscribers, and it's really reasonable. But then you get access to the deeper episodes that we offer here, which are, I don't know, they're usually 40 to 60 minutes, depending. I mean, somewhere in there, just total with this included, and access to some other things that are great additions. And there are different levels as well that gives you access to more and more. And then that money goes toward our ability to spend time writing and produce more content like this and other content to help people who are empathic thrive in this world. So that's all I have.
Yeah. And next week we have another conversation, and it is navigating the workplace as an empath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one.
That will be a good one. Yep. So those of you, like, no matter where you're working, but we know those that are in corporate, that can be a challenge for the empath. So we're going to touch base on that and then share some stories as well from our own experience. So thank you for joining us live. And thank you for, I don't know, my jazz hands. And thank you for those that watch the recording later. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks.